Welcome everyone to the council meeting for the 31st of August 2021, which I now declare open. Although members of the public can't join us in person today, our meetings remain open to the public via the live stream on our website, and I extend a warm welcome to all of you who are watching today. This afternoon's council meeting is being streamed through Zoom in light of the current COVID-19 restrictions. Please be sure to check the Department of Health and Human Services website for further information and updates on current COVID restrictions. On behalf of Moonee Valley, I would like to respectfully acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land on which Moonee Valley is located, the Wurundjeri Woi-wurrung people of the Kulin Nation, and we pay respects to their spirits, ancestors, community members and elders past, present and emerging. We also extend this respect to other Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people. Item 3 on the agenda is apologies and leave of absence, and I haven't received either for today's meeting. Item 4 is confirmation of minutes, and I'll seek a mover and a seconder. The minutes from the council meeting held on Tuesday, the 24th of August 2021 be confirmed. Moved Councillor Sypek, seconded Councillor Tyson. All those in favour? That is carried unanimously. Item 5 is declarations of conflicts of interest. And councillors, do we have any conflicts of interest on any item on today's agenda? No, there being none, we'll move to presentations. And before I ask for presentations, I just want to note a couple of items. Firstly, I want to thank the 61,030 Moonee Valley residents who have already popped into a COVID vaccination centre to have their first dose, and the 38,076 that are already double dosed and fully vaccinated. As Mayor, it makes me extremely proud to see our residents acknowledging the importance of getting vaccinated and the recognition that vaccination is the only true way out of this pandemic. I'm also proud that Moonee Valley is leading vaccination in all of the western suburbs of Melbourne. Our first dose rate of 56.1% has us narrowly in front of Hobson's Bay on 55.2%. And in terms of 2 doses, we're also just 0.9% ahead of Hobson's Bay, who are at 35% compared to their 34.1%. So far, we are the local government leaders in the West in this space. However, Hobson's Bay have bridged that gap over the past few days. So I encourage our Moonee Valley community to keep our spot at the top of that vaccination leaderboard. When comparing the M9 group of councils, being the inner city councils that border the city of Melbourne, we are second of 9 in terms of first dose, less than 1% behind the city of Stonington. And so I'm calling on all of you that may have been putting off getting that first dose. Let's do this together. Let's lead the West, lead the inner suburbs, and let's show the rest of Melbourne that Moonee Valley is ready to embrace a post-pandemic world. The second item I would like to note today is that it is 1 year to the day since our CEO, Helen Swee, started at the City of Moonee Valley. Over the past 12 months, Helen has made a significant impact within the organisation and is now joined by an experienced and competent group of directors that form part of the city's executive leadership team. This year's annual budget was a great example of the collegiate working relationship between the executive leadership team and councillors. And I know as an entire organisation, we're extremely proud of our fiscally responsible budget that recognises times are not normal at present, and we don't want any member of the Moonee Valley community to be left behind. I'd also like to make a note on Helen's advocacy work and her tireless pursuit of ensuring that the state and federal government make considerable contributions to the work of our council. In the past financial year under Helen, Moonee Valley has secured $15.55 million in successful new grants, demonstrating the team's great effort in seeking external funding opportunities. When you include recurrent and one-off grants, that figure tops out at over 20 million. It's been an extremely successful first 12 months at Moonee Valley for our new CEO, and Helen, you've clearly set a high benchmark for yourself going forward. Councillors, I'll ask if there are any other presentations for today's meeting. Councillor Isa.
Mayor, if I may, I just wanted to add to what you were saying about vaccinations. I know that I jumped online last night and did confirm that there are no Pfizer vaccinations available in state clinics, but I wanted to encourage anyone who is keen to get vaccinated through using Pfizer, that our GPs in Moonee Valley are doing an amazing job at distributing both AstraZeneca and Pfizer, and to really encourage people to reach out to their general practitioners if they're struggling to know how to access vaccinations. It obviously supplies an issue, but a big shout out to our GPs, our healthcare workers, everyone who's working so hard to help keep us all safe, and to encourage people to take that route if they're looking for a vaccination.
Thank you, Councillor Isa. Any other presentations today? There being none, we'll move to petitions and joint letters. Councillors, do we have any petitions or joint letters to be presented this afternoon? There being none, we'll move to public question time. I note for today's meeting, we have not received any public questions. I will provide a brief update on the process of submission of public questions and the verification of these and members of our community that are submitting these questions. At last council meeting, it became clear that questions had been submitted under false names and that they were impersonating other members of the Moonee Valley community. So in an effort to mitigate this inappropriate practice, we have implemented more stringent measures to verify the identity and address of those who are submitting questions to future meetings. The council, community members can read more about the question submission process on council's website. We obviously want to keep this important part of local government democracy, but we need to ensure that the people asking questions are actually who they say they are and are not submitting false questions on behalf of others. Item 9 is reports from delegated committees, and we have none. So we'll move to the first and only report on today's council meeting agenda. It's report 10.1, Community Vision, Council and Health Plan 2021 to 25 and 10-year financial plan. Councillors, do I have a motion? Councillor Adams.
Thanks, Mayor. I'll move the officer's recommendation, please.
Thank you, Councillor Adams. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Hodgson. Councillor Adams, would you like to speak to the motion?
Thanks, Mayor. The council plan is one of the most important documents that we will produce in this council term, and I'm so proud of the enormous amount of work that has gone into this to date. Thank you to all our officers for the time and effort that has been put into this. I also want to acknowledge the thousands of people in our community who have contributed through the different forms of community engagement. Even with the challenge of lockdowns, we were able to capture feedback effectively, and overall I think it was a positive process. It's really great to have our MV 2040 vision reaffirmed with our community through this process, and I'm really looking forward to the next phase of our consultation, where we'll all get the opportunity to iron out any issues and also make further suggestions. I'd like to mention that we are also adopting the draft 10-year financial plan 2022 to 2023. Sorry, 2033. I guess the biggest point to note here is that this plan has been developed based on many assumptions, and as such will need to be reviewed and evaluated going forward. There are many factors that have and will place enormous pressure on council's cash reserves, and what is very clear to me is that as a council group, we will need to make some important decisions about our council services and capital works delivery so that we remain financially viable and fiscally responsible well into the next 10 years and beyond. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Adams. Councillor Hodgson, would you like to speak to the motion?
Thank you, Mayor. And I just want to echo Councillor Adams' thanks to officers and to our community for the huge amount of work that went into this and the great ideas and feedback that we've received from the community so far. It's been a really strong period of engagement. I know that, you know, there are some changes to the legislation which have required a more deliberative engagement process, but our officers have really embraced that opportunity to reach out and speak with our community to understand what you all think we should be doing to deliver on our vision, our shared vision for the community. There are a few documents in the reports today and attachments that help us to understand and read the council plan and see how that feedback's been built into our 4-year strategy. But I will note that you know, it is a large organisation. We do a lot of things in council, and we've really tried to achieve a document in our council plan that is easy and straightforward to read, and really looking forward to hearing from the community about whether we've been able to achieve that with this draft. Excuse me. With a strategic plan like this, we have to, you know, be specific enough to keep our council to account and deliver on our community vision, but flexible enough that we can respond to the community's immediate needs and whatever might get thrown at us. As we've seen in the last couple of years, you know, that can come in the form of challenges or opportunities. So we want to hear in this next phase of engagement about whether we've got that balance right. Have we got the right level of detail? Have we got the indicators right so that we're setting ourselves up to be able to measure success? I also just really wanted to point out that there was a huge amount of really great suggestions that came from the community through the consultation process about how we might bring that plan to life. And they're captured in some engagement reports, which can also be found on our website. They're really important reports, and it will help us as a council and our officers to really bring this plan to life. If you think that maybe your ideas haven't been captured in the plan the way you would like to, we're really open to ideas about how we can have those captured, and whether that's through the reports that I've mentioned or, you know, through changes to the plan. Looking forward to that feedback coming through this next phase of engagement.
Thank you, Councillor Hodgson. Any other councillor wish to speak to the motion? Councillor Isa?
Mayor, I'd like to move a small amendment to the motion.
Yep. If you could give us your amendment, please.
I'd like to insert a new part B and then just renumbering everything accordingly. New part B to read, request the CEO as part of the phase 3 community engagement, in brackets, without making any changes prior to exhibition, close bracket, to consider referring to strategic objectives, in quotation marks, in the council plan to align more closely with MV 2040 and section 92B of the Local Government Act, and consider ways of better aligning MV 2040 objectives and the council plan objectives and strategies to enable clearer reporting by council to the documents.
Thank you, Councillor Isa. And so that is the insertion of a B and then subsequent lettering for the remaining parts. Councillors, I'll just get a general nod if councillors are across that, if you don't need it in writing on the screen. Yes, general consensus. So we've got a specific amendment being proposed by Councillor Isa. Do I have a seconder for that amendment? Councillor Tyson. Councillor Isa, would you like to speak to your specific amendment?
Thanks, Mayor. This amendment is just asking officers as part of the phase 3 engagement to look into matching up our council plan more clearly with the Local Government Act, as well as clarifying connections with our existing Moonee Valley MV 2040 objectives. Our draft council plan has transferred the MV 2040 directions into objectives and consolidated the 58 MV 2040 objectives into the strategies. And from my perspective, this creates some unnecessary messiness across the documents and potentially complicates things for the community and reporting purposes. And I just think it could potentially be aligned to make things a little bit simpler. And the lawyer in me really wants to just make sure that we tick off all the sections of section 90 of the Local Government Act really clearly and make this clear for the community. And I'm a little troubled by the absence of the objectives referred to specifically in the council plan, and the Local Government Act does say we need to have objectives. So this small...
Sorry, can I ask a point? So I had my hand up. I don't know how to ask points of clarification over Zoom.
No, that's fine. Point of clarification. Yes.
Through you, Mayor, can we please ask the CEO if the current draft does tick off everything under Section 90 of the Local Government Act?
Yes, we can. That is asking a point of clarification on fact within the existing report. Through the CEO.
Thank you. Through the Mayor, the council report, including the draft council plan as it is, meets the legislative requirement of Section 90 of the Local Government Act. Thank you.
Thank you, CEO. Councillor Byrne, that answers your point of clarification. We'll resume Councillor Isa speaking to her specific amendment. I think 4 or so minutes still on the clock, please. Councillor Isa.
Thanks, Mayor. I appreciate the CEO's clarification there. My point is that it's not clear for the community. We've got nothing in the council plan draft that actually says these are our objectives, and Section 92B of the Local Government Act says we need to have objectives. So any community member who, like me, has obsession with the Local Government Act potentially looks at our council plan and can't see very easily where that part of the requirements is ticked off. So I'm just asking in this small amendment if officers, while receiving feedback from the community, to perhaps consider how this could be simpler and clearer for the community and how those alignments across the documents could be neatened up. I do also think that clearer alignment will make it potentially make it easier for us to report against and for the organisation to report against over the next 4 years. Thanks, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Isa. Councillor Tyson, you wish to speak to this specific amendment?
Not much more to add, Mayor. Obviously, it's minor legal minutiae, but I'm happy to support it.
Thank you, Councillor Tyson. Any other councillor wish to speak to the specific amendment? Councillor Byrne.
Thanks, Mayor. The way I see it is that we've just had, I asked a point of clarification to the CEO, and I believe it's in the report to say that it does meet all that it needs to. If there are community members that don't necessarily like the layout and they feed that back to us, that's when I suppose we can look into it. But I do find that it's kind of strange that it would come through an amendment at this point of time. So I won't be supporting this.
Thank you, Councillor Byrne. Any other councillors wish to speak to the specific amendment? If not, Councillor Isa, wish to close?
Just to respond to point raised by Councillor Byrne. Look, obviously this amendment's not asking for any changes to be made ahead of going out for consultation. It's really flagging something for officers to consider during this phase. And I think that it's fair to officers to flag this as a concern rather than wait till the last minute to do it in October, but just to let them know that this is something that I think something is quite simple to remedy, and I think it can make, as I say, can make it clearer for our community in terms of ticking off all the things that we need to do.
Thank you, Councillor Isa. So I'm putting that specific amendment to the vote. All those in favour? That is Councillor Tyson, Councillor Tyson, Councillor Isa, Councillor Nation. Those against is Councillor Bedio, Councillor Hodgson, Councillor Adams, Councillor Sypek, Councillor Byrne, Councillor Sharp. That amendment is lost. We revert back to the substantive. Councillor Isa, you were speaking to the substantive. I think you had just commenced, so probably have a full 5 minutes on, full 3 minutes. Thank you. 3 minutes on the clock.
I won't take advantage of your slip there, Mayor. The council plan is one of the most important documents that we have the responsibility as councillors to oversee, and its purpose is to communicate to our community what we will deliver over the next 4 years, and it's how the community holds us accountable. It's how we hold the organisation accountable as councillors. It's our 4-year contract with the community. This draft document represents hours of staff work, for which we're very grateful. It also represents hours of community input, for which we're also very grateful. The questions I ask myself about this document are, does it communicate what we will deliver for the community? Will it hold us accountable effectively? Does it reflect what the community has told us they need? At this stage, we're just putting things out for community feedback, so we'll learn whether community members see their hopes and expectations of council reflected in this plan. Apart from the issue that I've already spoken to, there are some other elements of the document on which I think further work may be warranted. The indicators may need some further drafting to be more specific. The status of MV 2040 initiatives for the council plan period may need some clarification. The section on health and wellbeing and the health plan could perhaps include further references to lessons from the pandemic. And there are some priorities mentioned in the engagement sessions that haven't quite made it into the document that I feel could potentially be included, such as an action plan for young people. We've got 30% of our population under 25, and strategies specifically for young people who have been so profoundly impacted by the pandemic could be included. Significance of our cultural diversity could perhaps be more prominent, and feedback from community also emphasised social connections, agency and partnering with council on local projects, and this could potentially find its way into the plan. There are also a range of specific priorities mentioned on pages 24 to 29, Highball, Action on Climate Change, Moonee Valley Festival, improved communication, and there could perhaps be further clarity on which of these will be delivered. And of course, I'd like to probably see a bit stronger commitment to action on climate change. One argument is that this document's high level and doesn't require a high degree of specificity, but a sharper focus on outcomes would give me greater reassurance. This is the time, however, to ask for community feedback, to listen to this feedback and to act on it. The overarching question I have is, can the community look at this document and see clearly what council is going to deliver over the next 4 years? And I'm hoping that we can continue to improve this document so that the answer to that is yes. I think, and I think particularly without my amendment earlier, I think at the moment, I probably don't think the document does that clearly. But as I say, I hope that we can improve it so that it meets both my expectations and the expectations of the community.
Thank you, Councillor Isa. Any other councillor wish to speak to the motion? If not, Councillor Adams, do you wish to close?
Yes, thanks, Mayor. Only to, sorry, just lost my notes there. Thanks, Councillor Isa, for your comments. The next phase of consultation, obviously phase 3 of our consultation, will be an opportunity for everybody to provide feedback. And I guess in spirit of, Rose's amendment, maybe we could seek, feedback, including, councillor feedback specifically on, things that that haven't been sort of specifically addressed. So I think that will be a good opportunity for us to hear those suggestions and iron out any issues. And yeah, so I'm excited about also hearing about our community's feedback on our council plan, and thanks everyone for your comments.
Thank you, Councillor Adams. So I'll put that motion to the vote. All those in favour? That is Councillor Bedio, Councillor Hodgson, Councillor Tyson, Councillor Adams, Councillor Sypek, Councillor Sharp, Councillor Byrne, Councillor Nation. Those against? Councillor Isa. The motion is carried. That was the sole agenda item on this afternoon's meeting papers. The next item on the agenda is item 12, urgent business. And councillors, do we have any items of urgent business to be raised this afternoon? There being none, we move to confidential reports, and there are no confidential reports listed. So that is where we close the meeting at 12:55. Thank you to everyone who has watched online. As the council plan in draft format has now been moved and voted on and resolved, we are entering another phase of engagement. So please stay tuned to the Moonee Valley website to learn how you can be involved in that final third phase of engagement. I don't say good night, I say good afternoon, everyone, and we'll